Broadcast. I see you interacting with us on our social media platforms. I'll get to sample some of the comments as we proceed with the show, but important to note is that we still have the gentleman on board, governance expert Charles Munyui. Good to have you. And we have Honorable Kassim, who's also the Member of Parliament, Matuge constituency, and Member of Parliament in Bakassi North, Honorable James Gakuya, as we get to proceed with the conversation. Before we get to the BBI aspect and we understand the nitty details, because it is evident that we are headed for a referendum. Ministry's race against time to fly in vaccine. We're talking about the COVID-19 vaccine. One, lots of fears, lots of questions as to just how genuine these processes will be and who is going to get the vaccine first, and whether indeed we are going to have a proper process in terms of the procurements and all that, as opposed to what we witnessed with the KEMSA scandal, and whether indeed, again, we're going to get the right vaccine in the first place.
Well, put it this way, this is a global issue, it's a global situation, and World Health Organization, in conjunction with the Ministry of Health and all other players, are really keen on this issue. And I think what we must do is play as little politics with this issue as possible, because our Kenyans are vulnerable. We know that they consume a lot of information on a daily basis, and any negative information in relation to this that is not founded on anything substantive can really mess the whole issue of the vaccine. Yeah. Importantly, it is not about the vaccine really, to me. It is the fact that Kenyans have gone back to their old ways of doing things. The moment the figures started going down, and we applauded, and we started now doing the countdown as to when all the curfews and all these restrictions are going to be lifted, Kenyans are back to normal. They're doing their things the normal way, and I think that's where the situation, we got to where we were, because to be honest, much as we have lost quite a number of lives, and every life is important, but Kenya has handled this in a better way than a lot of countries in this region and even in the rest of the world.
But we've slagged on how we've handled this, Mheshimiwa.
In fact, that's what I was saying. Yes. Even in terms of those people enforcing, I think we have a problem. The last time I checked, the county governments and the national government at the summit agreed they're going to work together on enforcement. I don't see the county askaris, the enforcement team, out there in the counties, in the shopping centers, in towns, ensuring people are wearing masks, people are keeping social distance, people are doing this and the other one that is recommended. Clubs now operating like everything is normal. People are huddled together, just drinking and doing their thing, merrymaking and even having fun. And I think that is the biggest challenge right there. If the national government does not work properly with the county governments on how to enforce the regulations and protocols that were put in place, then we are going to find ourselves smack back to where we were. And remember, there's another strain that's going on. So if we allow this to go back, we might just slide back into, in terms of the gains that we had made.
Honorable Kassim, the numbers are up as of yesterday in comparison to what we witnessed in the past 1 month or so. The situation is not even getting better somewhere in Tanzania.
Well, I think I will restrict my comments really to our dear country.
Okay.
But before I go to comment on the issue of the numbers, the issue of the vaccine, Linda, to me has two aspects. It's going to be shipped via JKA, I suppose. Yeah. This is the same JKA where a whole plane load of donations related to COVID disappeared. It really surprises me how this vaccine will land in Kenya and actually end up in the right places. Right. Our CS, able CS, Mutahi Kagwe, I remember at one time on national TV telling Kenyans there are cartels in this building, very big cartels in this building. And I'm yet to be updated where those cartels went. They are still there. And now we are talking of bringing in vaccines. And these are very expensive. Remember, the previous vaccines, we can talk about polio and whatever, they are free. This time, unfortunately, I'm informed that they are not going to be administered free. Yes. And that, again, that is the next challenge. We are looking at the most vulnerable Kenyans right now in these COVID situations. Where are they going to get the money? Are we saying that we want to preserve the high class, the mighty, and the others can perish away? This is also very sad. So before they land, hopefully land safely and be protected this time, minus the cartels, CS will update us on this. How will the ordinary Kenyan be able to pay for this vaccine? Yeah. About the issue of the regulations, I think I'll only summarize it in that at one time we were told that Kenyans have peculiar habits. And this is about Kenyans. It's not about the ordinary Mwananchi, because even us leaders, I'm surprised the governance expert talks about the enforcement. The leaders themselves, you see, those, the governors, the members of parliament, name it, even in churches where the people are not observing this. And surely it will be wrong now to blame the enforcement officers when the top leaders themselves who are supposed also to enhance, they're not following. So I think these are the peculiar habits at one time we have to live with.
Yeah.
But at one point, we need to agree that the COVID is with us. It's a reality. We need to take care of ourselves. It's a personal responsibility. Beyond that, I cannot see a situation where we're going to have enforcement officer everywhere. You know, this goes up to the village. It goes up to the home level. I can't see that happen. And I'm glad to know that, of course, the media is doing a very great job in terms of informing people. But at the end of the day, it is a personal decision.
Indeed, it is a personal decision. A constituency that holds about 500, constituencies, you even ask yourself from the word go, did we get it wrong? Did we, set up rules that really were not realistic in the first place, Honorable Gakuya? Because, I mean, even go to the slum areas in Nairobi, this talk of social distance, this talk of wearing masks and everything, honestly, it's something that was never realistic. Go to the rural areas that will tell you that I don't know how many people in Matuga would literally be walking around with masks. Probably they do not do it at all. So would we genuinely attribute this to laxity on how we have taken up the measures?
Oh, thank you, Linda. First and foremost, Linda, let me say that allow me first to make my personal condolences to my great friend, Honorable Munyui
Yes.
I lost a very good friend of mine, and through this cancer. And therefore, it tells me there are also other serious and dangerous viruses like cancer, which lead, because by this particular parliament only, we have lost at this point, I think if it's not 3, 4, 5 number, and it's a very big number comparing with the last parliament. And I would say, yes, as we take precautions to COVID, let us also have a think tank to think on how do we deal with also this menace of cancer viruses. Because surely it's also another coming up serious disease that actually, once it touches you, to survive is very minimal percentage. In the area to do with the COVID, I would say that God is with us. Because if you consider the city of the Nairobi the way it is, and during those critical moments, our children had been praying everywhere together when they were out of the schools. And let me tell you, nobody will cheat you that the students were wearing any single mask. And I will say, it is by God's grace that actually we are where we are. And this particular menace did not clear, especially our informal areas. And especially in these cities we live in. Yeah. And therefore, when these things data were being read, every single day I was watching, how is my constituency performing in this one? Because I have those informal sector. But I tell you, we tried to assist them in every other manner, but surely we could not be able to facilitate every single person who could not be able to manage to buy that mask to provide it with. Yeah. And the government was unable to do so. Therefore, I would tell you that surely in one or another, I would say there is what we call God's mercy, which clearly was the protector of his mask.
All right.
And number two, let me say, it is not a point to say that we are off the hook. Let me also advise my fellow Kenyans that this monster is still here with us. It is still within our midst, because this virus does not work, but we just work with it. And therefore, that particular danger is still there, and it has not gone. What it has done is that we have seen a nosedive of the coming up of those viruses due to the kind of precaution probably the government took. And this is at this point what I would say, elements to do with what we call vaccines is not a matter to discuss. The government should put what we call clear measures, allow other private entities also to bring in this vaccine. Because if you say that actually it's the government we shall rely with, the government to buy on behalf, and then come and give us what we call conditionalities on who should get it, who should not. We need availability of this vaccine all over, so that one can be able to decide whether to go for it if you have cash. Because we are not all dependent on free things.
Right.
There are people who are capable to go and buy that particular vaccine. So for the purpose of that, there's the government put mechanism where the other players will come in and bring in this vaccine. Right. Let it be available. Let every single have a choice whether to go for the free or whether to go for it to buy.
I'm having a problem with my colleague here when he says that people should be free to either pay for it. The majority of Kenyans cannot afford, and I think this should be understood.
So it shouldn't be a payment factor.
It should be a payment factor, you know. The majority of Kenyans can't afford. The majority of those who can't afford are the ones who are most vulnerable, you see. If should they just catch a cough, they cannot afford even the normal medication for a normal cough, and later on probably develop to corona. So
to me, I am trying to get myself back to memory lane and just look at how we handled the aspect of COVID-19 when it came in. And I remember the first times I was covering this, was told that for you to get to be tested, you have to pay about 10,000 bob or so to speak. Before we knew it, it wasn't even a month. There were places where you could be tested free. The mass testing that was conducted across. I would just love to understand, what is this one thing that would shift the payment from 10,000 to that level of it being free? And probably would such be incorporated in this vaccine scenario?
But you realize even when they're saying they're going to do the free testing, they only did a pilot, I think in Kawangware and a few places. I cannot remember anywhere in costs where I come from, where they did this. And of course, to me, it was also impracticable to say that you are going to test about 50 million Kenyans, you see, in what time frame.
But every time they give us data, they give us numbers. As of yesterday, we had numbers.
Yeah, but you see, me as a mathematician, so to speak, I have problems with the way they actually give those numbers. Because to me, when you tell me today it's 100, tomorrow it's 200, and you say it has risen, I don't think that is a measure of, to me, what really would matter is the percentage.
Which in most cases they do actually. They also give
but most Kenyans don't actually understand the percentage. They understand the numbers. So like if they are told it's 500, they say now it has gone up. And yet it could have gone down in terms of the percentage. So I think here Kenyans should also be educated in terms of when it is going. I even don't agree that at one point it actually went down. At that particular point, I think we moved from testing over 10,000 samples within 24 hours. And it went down to, to 2,000. At one point it was 2,000.
Right.
And then we are saying now it has gone down. I think that has not been the reality. But overall, we need to take personal responsibility. If this vaccine is available, my prayer is that let it land in safe hands this time, not the KEMSA scandal. Let it not disappear. Let it be free, because that is the only way it's going to help. Because even if I'm vaccinated, and of course as a leader I'll always be out there. Over the weekend I'll be in Shimba Hills. I'll be meeting the same people. They're not vaccinated. How safe am I? You see, that I will not be affected.
Because after all, we are all trying this for the first time.
Yeah, we're all trying this for the first time. So to me, I think before it is brought, can the ministry, can the government, of course I know as parliamentarians will be very ready to appropriate monies if it is going to the ordinary mwananchi. We can slash on other luxurious sectors, but make sure that it becomes free.
Well, let's put this.
Linda, a quick one.
And briefly also address
and I'll
this
talk
aspect
about
of
cancer also. And my condolences to my friend Wakape. The thing is, even if you test 2,000 and you're told 5% have COVID, it's 5% of 2,000. If you test 10,000 and 5% of 10,000 is 5,000. And we are looking at the percentage, because there's a percentage that informs the decisions that we make thereafter. It's not really the number of figures. And remember, initially when we started this, We used to pick everyone. If you've been in contact with someone who has COVID, we used to pick you in the street and take you to isolation and all that. And that started overwhelming the facilities that we have. Yeah. So we slowed down on that and started looking at home-based care, where if you have no symptoms, or if if the symptoms are minor, then you even treat yourself at home. But you get tested in the first instance, because there's a reason as to why you felt that something was wrong with you. And that is how our facilities, medical facilities, never got overwhelmed, because we adopted that particular style, and it has worked very well for us. So I think our brothers here, my brothers here, the two of them, because they're parliamentarians, they can comfortably invite the Minister for Health through the committees and have a discussion around this vaccine issue, have a discussion around the percentages that we're talking about, have a discussion around the surge that we're talking about, the kids that we're talking about that are in school and all those things, and especially now that the weather has changed. Yeah. And remember, Europe and the Americas, the reason as to why they are really badly hurt by the COVID is because of the weather over there. Yeah. So I think they need to help us as Kenyans out there. Me, I tried vying in Kiamba and I flopped miserably. So so my election mine was not stolen. I just lost terribly. Okay. So they're in Bunge. They can be able to help us understand what's going on, unravel, have Mutahi give a statement on Mheshimiwa Mutahi give a statement on this issue, so that Kenyans can rest easy. In terms of cancer, I think the National Cancer Center, and again, I put this rightly in the hands of our members of parliament. We need to know why the National Cancer Center is not fully functional like it should be. What kind of funding do they get? Because issues prevention, issues even on advice on what needs to be eaten out there, issues in terms of food safety, what we are having. These are issues, preemptive issues that we need to have out there. We need to understand, even those people that are opposing BBI and strengthening or devolution, where our hospitals out there, national government only manages 4 hospitals, the National Referral Hospitals. There are 3 of them. I think Eldoret, Kenyatta 1 and Kenyatta University Hospital. There are 3 of them. All the other hospitals are county government hospitals. Screening should be happening at the lowest level in this country, so that the moment something does not feel right, or you feel like you just want to go and get screened, that facility out there nearest to you should be able to do that. The problem with this country is that people end up visiting oncologists, who are very few, by the way, in this country. And that is something else that needs to be looked at, brain drain. I don't know, we don't have oncologists. We only go to hospital when we are not well, when things are not okay. So the aspect of preventive ways, by way of what we consume, what we should not be consuming, the aspect of screening, that should be devolved seriously, so that the next facility that you have, county-run facility, should be able to do screening, so that a lot of other things, because if cancer is discovered in good time, there are very high possibilities that it will be sorted out in good time.
Indeed.
Leader, maybe just to add a line on that, let us not forget that actually we have a big problem. Yes, the element to do with our eating conditionalities. Actually, it's an issue first of all, to deal with this particular aspect. But, leader, are we really don't we consider that actually we have a big mass out there who cannot even manage to get a single meal a day? Yeah. How are they going to survive? Who is caring for them? Who will give them? Who will just? How are we going to fix them in this particular arrangement of food eating habit? Yeah. Yes, are we going to be? Because surely, I'm just taking myself to the foot of somebody who is in malaria now, who is just sleeping in a cotton kind of, we call them charities. Yeah. That fellow in the morning, do you think on how to look for mafuta? Even though it is agideri with not single bean, that is what you just address to just make his day. So in terms of those areas, I don't know how the
Kenyans can rarely afford 3 meals a
day. As much as we need their good health, who will subsidy their deficits?
Wow, lots of questions arising. The leadership, again, is where, we'll put all this blame.
Yeah, my condolences to the late Honorable. It is sad to lose a member of parliament. In fact, us from Coast, we normally like joking around. So one of my colleague, my friend from Coast actually telephoned me and told me, Mheshimiwa, I think it's high you left the bunge. So many of you now, it's like you are targeted in that house. And it's very sad because
sad,
within this period, we've quite lost a number. I think this is the time we've lost the highest number of lawmakers in any single session. But having said that, for the last 3 years, so I've been in Parliament, we've had debates, motions on cancer, specifically on cancer, not less than 5 of them. And we've given them enough input, enough ideas. So the expert here taking it to us, I will put it that we've done our best in terms of tabling motions, especially to deal with cancer. It's a monster. It only appears to be there when maybe a leader or an MP maybe loses his life. But people are losing their lives daily, even in the villages through cancer, you know. And we've given all the measures that the ministry should take. But of course, it all boils down to the executive when it comes down to implementation. We all know that we always take our priorities, we get our priorities wrong. At every corner, you know, we take our priorities wrong. And when you talk about losing 2 billion every day through corruption, you see, this is money that I think is more than enough to tackle the issue of cancer right from the village level. And as far as I know, it starts with screening, early detection, and that is where we can't afford it. And yet, I believe with the right priorities, we have enough money in this country to take care of that menace.
All right. Well,
and therefore, this tells you the government must be very firm and deal prudently in issue to do with how healthy sector. Because unless you have free services so that you assist that forgotten society down there, there's no way that fellow will be able to reach the hospital if it is charged. There's no way he can access services if it is charged. Because the pockets are empty. How do they cope with it?
All right. Well, I want to loop that conversation with this one of the BBI, which is a conversation of the day. We've pushed it a bit too far, but all the same, we're here. The passage of the Constitution of Kenya Amendment Bill 2020, that is across the county assemblies, marked a major milestone, one for President Uhuru Kenyatta and Right Honorable Raila Odinga, in regards to their efforts to sway next year's presidential succession, that is in favor and cement their legacies in favor of them. So as we talk about this, the conversation of the BBI is one that has been castigated based on the fact that the dissenting voices have argued that maybe, yes, this could be a good conversation to have, but then again, we have misplaced priorities because there are other crucial issues that need to be addressed in the country as opposed to us focusing on this. The question of money is at hand. We just ask ourselves, how expensive is this process going to be? I mean, how expensive will it be for us to go for a referendum? IEBC set to meet the House Committee to explain this and all that. A process that is almost halfway done, yet we do not have clear, picture or a clear picture as to how much it will cost us, as to whether it was necessary to have this conversation now or shelve it for a moment and address the issues that are of priority. You speak of priorities, and the dissenting voices would argue that BBI is not a priority now.
BBI is a priority more than anything else. If we consider that in about 1.5 years' time, we'll be going for a general election. Linda and our viewers, and those who are saying it's not a priority, would we be happy to have those conflicts after every 5 years, given now that it's only 1.5 years to a general election?
How much of a guarantee does the BBI have in terms of addressing animosity?
I will not say there's 100% guarantee, but I think it is always agreed that it is only a madman who keeps doing the same thing the same way and expecting a different result. We've been having the same scenario in terms of the top leadership, and we've been having these conflicts. This is something different we want to try. Can we now decentralize? Can we distribute power at the top, if that is the main issue? I'm not saying it's 100%, but at least it's something different, which gives me hope that we can get a different result this time. Otherwise, it has been proven that remaining with the same scenario, we are likely to have those conflicts. And what is the cost of the conflicts when it comes in every general election? We could be talking about 14 billion, 20 billion, talk over 100 billion, but lives lost. What is the cost of losing a life? Even the economy itself, what is the cost? of moving from an economic growth of about 7% in 2007 to almost zero. What is that cost? And then somebody talks of 14 million being too much or 20 million being too much. Look at the lives lost. If this amendment will guarantee us, will give us a break from the conflicts on every 5 years, to me, that is a cost that I don't think can really be equated to any other thing.
All right. Well, the bill is instrumental in terms of addressing the issues of the common mwananchi.
Yeah.
We do not speak of this particular bill without mentioning the key figures. And so, as I started by saying, it is quite a great milestone for these gentlemen in regards to how best they will shape what will play out of the presidential succession come 2022. What does this BBI, success mean to President Uhuru Kenyatta, to Right Honorable Raila Odinga, to the DP, and the other key leaders that sit at the top of the helm? You must be knowing them. Some of them are not in government. Some of them are not, were not elected anywhere. But we always see them left, right, and center speaking and projecting the importance of this document.
I think the picture that is out there is one of individuals, proponents of this bill, or promoters of BBI generally, chest stamping and feeling very happy that they have won. And that's not it. I think that needs to be removed from the minds of the average Kenyan. Yeah. What is happening is there were 9 key issues that were looked at by the 2 individuals. Actually now 3, because we realized belatedly that William Ruto, His Excellency, was part of this. He contributed 3 members to the steering committee, and he has never disputed that particular fact. And they went around looking at how those 9 issues can be resolved, the ones my brother is talking about. Every time we are fighting, every 5 years we have elections, we are fighting. The feeling that you do not belong. Mount Kenya region feeling like they are underrepresented. Gakuya here is witness the same, saying populous constituencies have, are not happy with what the resources that they have to deal with the issues that they have. So there were all these issues, and especially strengthened devolution, because Kibaki time, His Excellency Kibaki time, he was controlling 100% of national revenue. And everything that we collect, he was controlling it. He would decide, wake up in the morning, decide we're going to do Thika Road, we're going to do Garissa, some small road out there. Yeah. But after devolution, which the president has managed well, 15% every financial year guaranteed has been going to counties, and you've seen counties rising, counties looking different, counties that never used to have any manner of development having that with the mega 15%. And what the 3 individuals realized that if we can increase the amount of resources going to counties against the backdrop of when we devolved, we give functions to counties, and functions are supposed to be followed by the money, but the money we are giving to counties, guaranteed figures that we're giving to counties, that is not dependent on the benevolence of any individual, is not sufficient. So why don't we give them slightly more? So these are the fundamentals of what is happening with BBI. So my take is, His Excellency the President, His Excellency Raila Odinga, who have come out very clearly on how they support BBI and are actually campaigning for it, are happy that one hurdle, the county, remember we had Punguza Mzigo that went up to the county assemblies, and then at that point it did not go beyond there. Luckily, even Punguza Mzigo now, by way of is incorporated in the BBI, and they gave their version of the things that they need captured. And remember, at Bomas, the version of the bill to amend the constitution that was at Bomas was changed, because it's only at the point where it's handed to IEBC after it's approved by 1 million individuals that it cannot be changed. But at Bomas, there were some things that were changed, including instead of multiple member constituencies, we ended up with constituencies, actually delimitation. So all these things. And then, after looking at all these things, including the aspect of the increased number of constituencies by 70, my friend here of here was talking about IBC being allowed to delimit and as provided for in under Article 89 to give us slightly more constituencies. The bottom line is, and this is something Kenyans need to know, IBC cannot increase or reduce the number of constituencies without going through a process of a referendum. There must be a bill that changes Article 89 so that
it can adjust
the numbers. Otherwise, the only thing IBC can do now, much as we are within the limit of time frame where we can do delimitation, is change the boundaries and the names of constituencies, and it can also change the numbers of wards and the boundaries of wards and the names of wards. Otherwise, it cannot touch, increase or reduce the number. So this bill provides for that way of amending Article 89 to the extent that now we can change the numbers. So it was important to take it to a referendum, and that is the bottom line. So this handle has been taken. The next handle, we have seen again a very beautiful thing. We've seen public participation. We have even seen individuals going literally, taking Article 1 of the Constitution on all sovereign authority belonging to them, literally walking into assemblies and sitting in the assemblies to listen in and make contributions and celebrate therein outside. So I think what is going on in this country is a change in the way things are done. People are participating literally on these issues, and I'm thinking, even when now, I'm sure all the certificates will be with the National Assembly and Senate later today. When they receive them, we want to see that same process. People driven, where people can actually now look, the average person out there can feel this is a process that belongs to them.
All right, Elgeyo Marakwet Senator Kipchumba Murkomen, who's a close ally of Deputy President William Ruto, poured cold water on the excitement that was there yesterday. He says, why are BBI promoters excited and overjoyed when you are running on your own? How are you celebrating that you won? I mean, yet, of course, evidently, there was no one that you were racing against. And this probably could justify the argument that they were trying to project. The fact that they said it's okay, we really do not, oppose of the document as it is. We only say that maybe it's not the right time. But even if it is the right time, then we should have, a conversation, a robust conversation that cuts across, that allows every other person to say, this is how we should go about it. Eventually, they even came up with a proposal of let's have the multiple choices, because in this particular document, we cannot agree to everything. But there are also other crucial things that we would not want to just wash away, by going out there at the ballot and declaring it as, null and void, or literally saying it's a no for this particular document. So how then would we work on this? Why is it so hard to come into such an agreement where we can say, well, on this one of review of the boundaries, which I think Mheshimiwa would agree to, because initially he was speaking of his constituency holding about 500 people in comparison to yours that could be holding about 100, 200 individuals.
Thank you, Linda. I think in a constitution, it takes care of everybody. And here I'll be speaking on behalf of the marginalized counties where I come from. There are some areas, like if I discuss with the Honorable Gakuya here on the issue of the equalization fund, he'll tell me outrightly, and I've had this discussion with other members from the Mount Kenya region, they tell us, no, you are not marginalized, you are only lazy. And all along, since independence, we know funds have not been following the activities. Funds have been following where the president comes from. And since independence, we've had a president from Mount Kenya, we've had a president from Rift Valley, and now a president from Mount Kenya. So for them, they think nobody is marginalized. I tell them, look, are you aware in this country that there are some areas where people saw tarmac, a whole county saw tarmac for the first time, courtesy of devolution? They are just lazy. They would have pulled their resources and put them.
Long time ago. But people argue that even in Gatundu, it's not all rosy. Two presidents have come from there, yet Gatundu is not looking so good as maybe they would have expected.
Maybe they are comparing Gatundu with Embakasi, or comparing Gatundu with probably another constituency there. But would you compare Gatundu with a constituency in Turkana? Would you compare Gatundu with my constituency, for instance? Definitely. In my own constituency, which has been in existence since independence, I have only 16 kilometers of tarmac. In the whole county of Kwale, courtesy of devolution, we have 2 ICU beds. We've never had an ICU bed in a whole county. In Gatundu, in Kiambu, how many referral hospitals do they have? So that is the problem. If a multiple choice question is put, definitely we'll lose equalization fund. Will definitely lose the powers which we want to reinstate to the National Land Commission in terms of addressing issues of historical injustices.
Why do you suppose you would lose it? I mean,
because the beneficiaries are the majority of the beneficiaries of those inequalities, of those injustices, are those who are in power. They are those who are now the majority. You cannot compare the marginalized MPs to those who come from not marginalized areas. So to me, the Constitution should be able to cater for everybody, even take care of those who know we can't raise the numbers. But it is good for this country. This country is a much better place if everybody feels he's being treated equally. And therefore, the issue of multiple choice, to me, is neither here nor there. To issue multiple choice was like when they knew they cannot stop the issue in terms of stopping the BBI, the amendment, then they were trying to put in some breaks. Remember, Linda, I think these are the same people who are opposed even into the current constitution. In fact, I wonder if somebody was opposed to this current constitution, what motivates that person now to say he wants to remain with this constitution, which initially he didn't want?
Okay.
You see, it really
let me ask this. I mean, they say whichever way the referendum goes, Ruto will benefit. Now let's discuss him, because then he's the key person who probably was against the current constitution as it stands. So, I mean, in this particular scenario, why would you be opposed of a document that would probably be beneficial? And when you look at the other side, where in the sense that if it sails through, you know, the worst that can happen is the fact that, well, probably he would look like he does not have the stamina and the control as maybe would expected for him to gain a presidency. But in the event that it sails through, there are a couple of other things. There are very many things that he stands to benefit, you know, tangible things that would be long-term and for that matter. So why would he oppose of it? Why would you back him in, you know, going against the conversation of a referendum as at now? Because you say that, well, you really do not have a problem with it, but the fact that maybe it has not had a robust conversation is why you decide that, well, you will neither be no or yes, but you will run other activities in the country overlooking that.
Rita, thank you very much. In the first place, allow me to say that actually every single Kenyan is well protected by the Constitution, and there is an element of fundamental rights. This country is a democratic country where divergent views, it is not a criminal. Divergent views means that we are friends, but we can diverge in terms of opinions. And therefore, that's why we have a room to choose yes or no. And choosing yes or no does not mean whichever side you are, that you are totally wrong. Because surely, one first and foremost, you have a divergent view because of particular issues within such a particular cause. In this particular cause we are in, and this is the BBI we are talking about. One, we are talking of, yes, we will just, what's important is to create peace for this country, and especially during every after election. But my big question is it every Kenyan who brings fear, who brings trouble in this country after every 5 years? And if we are really moving to address that particular point, are we considering that this country does not belong to 5 communities? This country belongs to 42 number. Have we taken their interest in the element of executive, where that room will be able to accommodate every other single community in this particular country? Don't we think that actually we are bringing a trouble in future, where those other small communities are not considered in this particular element, who can also gather together? Yes, and come up and say, yes, you have created rooms for only 5 communities at the top. What about us? Where is our room?
What is the guarantee that these 5 communities will be the very same one? I mean, is it not going to open the ground even further?
Allow me to clear my point.
Okay.
This one you find it very clearly. We are moving to an election. And let me tell you, first and foremost, the anchors of this and the others of this, their big agenda is the succession matter. Mm-hmm. The succession matter. How can they create a grand decoration and make sure that they take the lead and win an election? That is once the first mission. And what you are going to see is that you are going to see a scenario where, just see who are in the picture now.
Yes.
You are seeing a picture in Western, there are a number of 1 or 2. In Eastern, there is somebody. In Referendum, there is somebody. And that is the cocoons that are going to be even in what we are heading. Right. But let me tell you, it will be unfortunate, Linda, yes, to see a Bokomo in the picture, to see a Turkana in the picture, to see another forgotten community down there in the picture of this particular arrangement. In that particular case, you are telling us that if you accommodate those big communities and then they are satisfied, then the country is safe, and the country tomorrow has no issue to deal with in any other violence. The violence can be created by those who are not considered. And my taking this is to say that let us not keep creating what we call tribalism in this country. Let us not tribalize countries any longer. Create a nation which is free for everybody, or which can
And true to it, tribalism is what it is.
Linda,
let me just mention
and
this.
if you can allow me to finish. Allow me to finish. Allow me to very brief. Very brief. No, order. You have given this fellow twice when I was silent here.
Okay.
Yes. No, allow me also to give my views.
Okay.
Yes. I would like to say this. If we are not hypocritical, we are not hypocrites in this, and we are very sincere with what we are doing, let us see accommodation or in this element of grand coalitions that are hearing, accommodating those others. Those are not part of those big chunk of communities. Okay. That one, you tell me, really, we are talking of a united Kenya. That one, I will make a tick. Number two, leave about that element of executive. Let us come now to the clear point of where we are moving as a nation. We are telling this country that, yes, at the point we are, yes, we know some particular constituencies are overburdened, and we cannot be able to assist Wanjiku down there. The bursary down there in my constituency probably will serve a student with only 5,000, when another student is also getting 100,000 in a single particular year. Don't we have other mechanisms within ourselves how equitably we can share this cake?
Okay.
Does it mean that we must go to BBI
all right.
to bring
Linda,
an equation that can be able to accommodate every other single Wajiku to be equitable with another? We have what we call a sharing formula, which has taken our Senate nine postponement of sittings. At the end of the day, it's like whatever formula was brought was a formula that is not either here nor there.
Okay.
What prevented the authors of BBI to whip their members in the Senate to give Kenyans that particular element in that clear way? Okay. Yes. If we are not hypocrites,
Linda, as you allow Mheshimiwa to take a cup of water.
Yes.
Because I'm sure he's out of breath.
All right.
We need to calm down and be real. NASA, Pentagon did not require an amendment to the Constitution for individuals that gatekeepers in their respective communities to come together and form the grand coalitions.
Right.
Jubilee, the party with the largest number of members of parliament, both in the Senate and National Assembly, did not require an amendment to the Constitution for them to become a political party, and subsequently a coalition, KANU coming in and other parties coming in, for them to form a grand coalition. You did not amend the Constitution. So I think what my brother is saying here is null and void, and let us be realistic. The issue here is, first and foremost, my brother, the issue of healing, that there are only two individuals that come at the top. If you look at elections from whichever year, in this country, there is only number one and number two. Number three is usually what is called a distant third. Number two represents the interest of literally just about everyone else. Number one represents the interest of the majority. They come together and decide this is the person. So when number two is nowhere in the scene, after elections, you cannot see them because they are dumped back to the villages. Yes. They are not even in parliament. What is the interest? How do the people that have been following that number two feel? So when you create the position of official leader of opposition through an amendment to the Constitution, where they have a position in parliament where they can be able to tell our people, this is what we wanted to implement. Now, these are the guys who have won. We are here with a shadow cabinet to ensure these guys perform. Okay. And then we can be able to have a platform through which we can prove ourselves for 5 years so that you give us this seat. That is how this gets healed. Okay. Because if this was there, Raila would not have sworn himself in. Why would he swear himself in as the people's president?
Yet he has money.
Not even money. He is going to be sworn in as a member of parliament, an official leader of opposition with facilitation to run a cabinet, a shadow cabinet. Would that really have happened? Do you think we'd have had these street fights and everything? So when you're talking about these issues, let us not get excited and act out. We are members of society that are, looked upon. We are on national television here. This is not the time to just talk about this issue. Number two.
Let me finish.
Allow me. It's the same thing. It's the same issue. Let me finish.
I want to interject
because it's not fair. You cannot interject. Let me finish. Then you can interject on everything.
Let's allow him to finish.
Because
it
is very brief. If you would listen, the amount of money we are sending to counties, we want counties to be self-reliant. My brother here has talked about tarmac that has been brought by the county government. If the county government is strong enough, many an individual back there in the rural areas will not be worried a lot about who the president is, who the prime minister is, who is that. And that arrangement is going to be there. Because if you look at the functions that are domiciled in counties, they are the most critical functions. Where education starts, ECDs, domiciled in counties. Nothing stops a governor from having the best ECD facility in the country so that kids can start moving from private facilities to public facilities where literally nothing is being paid for.
Okay.
With a lunch program, with transport. When you look at agriculture, food security, domiciled in county governments. If you look at health, literally just about all health I was talking about here, those stadiums that we are talking about are supposed to be done by counties. Mortuaries, all those things are even fresh market produce markets. They are supposed to be county government. If those things are functional, the things that we are looking for right now, and with the infrastructure that the national government is putting in place right now, the person down there in the rural areas will start feeling like, actually there is a government working for me. I do not have to protect this money. Precisely, you need to have a mechanism, a constitutional mechanism. And let me finish by saying, Article 257 of the Constitution on amending the constitution through a popular initiative does not provide for multiple questions. That is a fact, and you'll put it up here. The Elections Act that our brothers here need to work on is the one that has provided for multiple questions, because you don't only go for a referendum because you want to amend the constitution. There are a lot of issues you can go to a referendum on. Article 257 is clear. This is a bill that belongs to Junet Mohammed, never mind where it came from. It belongs to Junet Mohammed and Dennis Waweru right now. And they have gotten 1 million supporters. They've taken it to IBC as is going to county assemblies as is coming to these gentlemen. They cannot amend a comma or anything in that bill. They are going to debate it and vote on it as is going to IBC. IBC cannot be given powers to take everything away from MCAs, from 1 million individuals, from our members of National Assembly and Senate, and then they come and bring in questions, and you are
it is too late to speak of the multiple
but
chances.
No, not even that. It's not even about being late. It is a confusion that is created when you read Article 257 against the Elections Act that provides for multiple questions, IBC coming up with multiple questions approved by the National Assembly.
But in the best interest of the common mwananchi, there are times when you seek advisory on such.
This bill as is, and I'm sure it will get there, is supposed to be voted for as is, and that's what Article 257 says. And by the way, the Constitution is superior to any other law.
Leader, one minute before you come. I just wanted to have 1 minute and problem, just putting a question to Mheshimiwa Gakuya anyway, so he'll have more to speak about. I think every Kenyan, including himself, knows that after every election, there is chaos in this country. And it affects the ordinary mwananchi. It really doesn't affect the Washimiwas. I'm yet to know if maybe my memory doesn't serve me right, whether we've lost any Mheshimiwa through the electoral violence. It is the ordinary mwananchi. Now, he says he would agree to the amendment if this one will take the Pokomos and the Chamos and whatever into those sort of positions. Very well, I know it will give me an opportunity. But how would you achieve that without expanding the executive? Even though, you know, the problem with them is that they are thinking these positions are just for Tandaza. Yeah, they are putting names into it. And I think that is the problem with the BBI, with the opposers. They are like shooting down the messenger, not the message. Because when you go to the message, they agree that there is a problem and you need to fix it. But now they are looking at the messengers. Now, I'm putting it to you, Mheshimiwa. How would you, in your view, bring in the marginalized into those top positions without expanding the executive?
Reader, I just want to take my panelists back to where we have come from. The position they are arguing about was a creation of multi-party. And when the multi-party scheme landed in 1992 here in this country, and the Section 2A was repealed, actually it created that position of what we call leader of opposition. We had Matiba as the first one. Then Kibaki came, and then Uhuru came, and so on. Until 2007, when the loser was, actually there was a package of that particular position. But he never went for it. He went for the fire. And that's what a guarantee we have.
So that means what is the guarantee?
What guarantee we have that the BBI addressing us and giving back that position, because that particular position was ruled out by the current constitution. And let me tell you, Reader, why it was ruled? Because of hypocrisy. Because people thought that now that we have taken Ruto and Uhuru to Hague, the position for us is ripe, and therefore it's automatically we are going to achieve the presidency. But it failed. It turned against them, and that's why they are back to the same biting drums, finding another way of getting back through another window. Let me tell you, this country cannot be.
Linda, you're allowing
I think
because it's the only dissenting voices.
It's not about dissenting.
And the other thing, Linda, I want also to tell you, as we are talking of those minorities, it is very important to consider this country belongs to all of us. And in the table or in the basket of taxes, every Kenyan is being taxed. Whoever. So every single Kenyan, does not matter whether you come from what community or where, you are Kenyan by right. Number two, what guarantee do we have in the BBI that Wanjiku, who is totally overburdened today by the current taxation, is not going to be affected by more taxes to implement this particular baggage?
Incorporating more leadership.
You see, those who oppose this document, unfortunately, I have asked him a very simple question. How will he make sure that the Pokomo, the whatever, the Njemos and whatever, will be at the top without expanding the existing?
And they are already addressed. This matter is addressed by the current constitution.
You need to protect us from Mheshimiwa Linda.
They keep on avoiding it because they have no solution. Now, put it correctly.
Linda, I have a solution.
Okay,
the current constitution has envisaged this.
We can
when
have
it created county government so that the resources can be able to go to.
And those are the county governments they are saying.
And leadership, every community down there can elect their governor. Who said that actually everybody should be at the national level?
He talks about the county governments and
he does not want them to strengthen.
Supposed to be taken there.
And he's saying that 5 is not available.
Those are resources.
Those are resources,
and Wanjiku need resources.
By the way, because we are on TV, I think it's important we allow Mheshimiwa here to talk, so that because Kenyans out there would like to hear what's going on in these studios, kindly. Yeah.
So the problem with those opposing the BBI is that they are opposing for the sake of opposing. You put a simple question and they will go round. If the current constitution addresses that, then we will not be having post-election violence. That is a very simple thing. If it does, then why do we keep having it? You see, it means there is something that needs to be done more than what is already there. Okay. If the current constitution allows the marginalized to be at the top, where are they? We will be seeing them now. They have not been there. So something different has to be done. And that is the problem. I wish our colleagues who are anti-BBI would go for the facts and also give us the alternative. Because, as I've initially said, madness is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. Let's have a change, whichever way, and see. After that, if it doesn't work, the Constitution, of course, allows it to be amended and be re-amended and be re-amended. They have even said that if someone now gets the presidency, he'll change the Constitution within the first, did you say 100 days?
But you see now that is also...
Let me say something.
So I think Kenyans, especially as leaders, let's go for the facts. Let's not look at the messenger. Let's not be emotional. Let's go for the facts. And see how we can take this country forward.
Fact. Me, I like being factual. And Mheshimiwa will confirm. If he has read the BBI Constitution Amendment Bill 2020, it proposes that a part of the cabinet is members of parliament. And the constitution is very clear. You cannot earn 2 salaries if you are a state officer. So half of that cabinet is going to be members of parliament who are serving in parliament. So we save half of the amount of money we pay as salaries to cabinet. Benefits, thank you. Even the cabinet right now, they have allowances that they utilize. The Prime Minister himself is going to earn the salary of an MP because he's going to be a sitting MP in Parliament. He'll have to be elected as an MP. And even the Deputy Cabinet Prime Ministers. We have taken it further. The CEC members, the County Executive Committee members, the so-called ministers in counties, MCAs will be cabinet ministers in the counties, and they'll be earning the salary of an MCA, of course, with the subsequent the allowances that go to sitting cabinet ministers today. Is that not a saving? So when we keep on talking about this cost, and my brother Gakuya has said it rightfully, let us strengthen devolution. The same devolution they are saying, don't give them 35% because it's not going to be available. You know, you cannot eat your cake and have it in the same form. You can have it, but not necessarily. It cannot be in the same form. The moment you have eaten it, you have eaten it. We must decide, is it going to be 35%? Let me tell you what is going on in this country. Kibaki used to control 100%, President Kibaki, of national revenue. Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, the president currently, is controlling 85%. But he has provisions in the Constitution, Article 203, where he can give conditional and unconditional grants to counties. What is going to happen post passing of this bill? There will be no resources whatsoever for the president to be dishing out to counties to either endear himself or anything to that extent, because all the resources will be the counties that deserve to be the counties. There are people who have a problem with counties being strengthened to that effect. There are people who feel if they run this country with 65%, because parastatals literally will have to fold up, most of them, because the stuff you've had, all the issues of corruption that you've had, they are literally domiciled on these state corporations. You look around and you tell me, there are people who have a problem with the folding up of these facilities because that's where corruption happens. There are people who would want all the resources domiciled in the national government when they are meant for functions of county government, so that they can either be dishing out. You go to Kakamega, you go to Mumias, you give them 2 billion for purposes of improving on their sugar. You go to Meru, you give them 1 billion for purposes of their Miraa. You go to Kiambu, you say Cherry Fund or these other fund. If that is not available, there are people who will not feel comfortable running the affairs of this country. So that is the big issue right there. 35% going to counties, don't look further than that. That's why people are going multiple choice, so that they can pick this, drop the other one.
All right, and I'm curious to know whether there's anything that you agree.
Just a second. And I just want to...
And hope it will be a second this time.
No, well, actually, there's a timekeeper. Allow the timekeeper to deal with it. Yes. Reader, what I want to say is that, in fact, let us not stand here and try to mislead Kenyans. Let us not mislead Kenyans in a manner that when you have a prime minister and deputy prime minister, you are not going to have what we call an increased church cars and increase security in the same person. Drivers will be also part of it.
Duale had the same vehicles. Kemunya has the same vehicles as a leader of majority.
Allow me to finish my
they have the security even today.
Just allow me to do that. Yes. What I want to say, we have this the same formula was here before, and actually during the National Accord, we tested this particular position of prime minister, and this country at some point. People are asking for red carpet and toilets.
That's different.
And let me tell you, it is in history. And let me tell you, it is not going to be any different tomorrow. Let us not tell Kenyans that actually there's no increased tax on that. Actually, the Kenyans will scratch more to facilitate those particular
if we have such and these gentlemen or ladies,
I am telling you
about taxes.
Reader, allow me just to finish and clarify this. Yes, it is true the Constitution at least talks about the member of parliament is not going to earn more. But let me tell you, allowances must be there.
But even ministers today are earning allowances.
Even
the cabinet today.
Why don't we talk
even the cabinet today is earning allowances.
Let us not sit down here.
Let us be real.
To mislead Kenyans that there's no any single extra cost.
But if it is extra and then we
how can it be extra? Even today they are getting it.
In any enterprise, in any enterprise, even in business, and I'm a businessman, I believe he is also there, we talk of cost-benefit analysis. I would ask, and I asked you this right from the beginning, what is the cost of that extra salary if it were to be there? That extra sitting allowance, if it is to be there, versus the benefit of tranquility in this country, plus the benefit of not losing a life in every 5 years. That is what our colleagues here should be able to appreciate. I would want to go back to where I started and actually misled Kenyans that we can now have a lead opposition in the current constitution. If we were in parliament, I would ask you as the speaker, is he in order to mislead us that we can have that position? He talked of Mwai Kibaki, he talked of Uhuru. Well, that was before the 2010 constitution, where those people you would lose, but still as a member of parliament, you will be in parliament and now lead your troops from inside. But the current constitution,
his argument was, I mean, there's really no guarantee that this individual who will come later on with this particular position will equally be as disciplined to ensure that they do not go and relent and cause the same havoc that they would in the current argument.
I think our colleague here has
explained that very well.
Explained it very well. You see, you'll actually create chaos because you have nowhere. By the moment that this current BBI amendment allows you officially to be having a title, a post, and you are inside the house, surely why should you go and cause chaos? And yet you have an avenue of actually dealing with the problem that you think should be addressed. Because you can do bills, you can do motions, you can do, because you're in the House. The current constitution doesn't allow that. So in the current constitution, Mheshimiwa, we don't have the post of an official leader of opposition. And you should, if you are not aware, then can you be aware?
As we come to a
read around, it is doable.
As we come to
it is doable without moving to referendum. Because surely, reader, assume that the current structure has a majority and minority in the House. You just only require to have an act of parliament, change that, and bring back what was there before.
All right.
Simple.
Okay. Well, let me read some of these reactions and then allow you to come in as we take it to a close. Yeah. Just how best can we have these conversations without having to, peg ourselves into our political alignments? Because according to Bartholomew Nyairiki, he argues that, well, Mheshimiwa, you are really aligning, you're having an argument based on your political alignment, which might not be objective in terms of us getting, results in regards to that. So, and I think it should be cutting across. This is something that has been there, is there up until date. Even the learned friends, you can tell that this is a person who would have argued otherwise. But because of their political alignment, then they take that direction. So how can we have such a conversation? Irungu Goko says the current recurrent expenditure is at 25, 15% is way below. This is actually, I think, something that came in earlier while we were starting the conversation. And of course, Abisai James is asking, what about the problems of division of revenue despite 35% being taken to the counties? That is also one thing. What then happens to the aspect of corruption? How do we ensure that there is accountability even as we take this 35% to the counties?
A quick one, I'll just go very quickly. Number one, first and foremost, Mheshimiwa Gakuya must admit that the cabinet ministers today enjoy allowances. So the moment you remove a salary from their pack, they are left with the allowances, then you've saved the country the salary of a cabinet minister. So when you have an MP serving as a cabinet minister, as being an MP, earning the salary of an MP, then you have saved on a salary. Forget about the allowance, because even today, current cabinet ministers are enjoying an allowance. When you talk about MCAs the same way, when you talk about a prime minister, being in parliament, it is different. He will tell you, he looks for the cabinet ministers, they have to look for them to come to committees. When you have a prime minister, the connection between the executive and the legislature is much easier. You can be able to deal with those issues, and that person will be there to respond on a one-to-one basis, on a daily basis, on matters arising relating to the issues of the issues these guys represent. Yeah. The bottom line is, we are saying, and we must be consistent for the sake of Kenyans, the issue of expenditure, the issue of those things, the moment you tell Kenyans it's going to be very expensive, that is fodder for their ears, because they have been primed, they have been structured to hear those things and get very irritated and feel like now the end is coming. And you cannot be saying this is good, but this has to happen. When Mheshimiwa Gakuya says, in order for those marginalized communities to be incorporated in government, then we need to strengthen devolution, but he says don't give them the 35%, then I think there is a contradiction right there. What we are saying is, let us be consistent, let us tell Kenyans the truth, let us tell Kenyans, for counties to get 35%, the economy does not have to grow by an inch. But of course, Article 11A that was applauded by not as a person that the Deputy President himself, he said the fun bit of the Constitution is Article 11A on how to grow the economy is provided for. But having said that, the economy does not have to grow by an inch for counties to receive what is due to counties, 35%.
All right, Mheshimiwa, as we close.
One, let me thank Kenyans as a whole, because if the Wanjiku Mheshimiwa keeps talking about was thinking like him, then they will not have passed this BBI in the counties, including the county that he comes from. So I don't know, Mheshimiwa, which Wanjiku is talking about. There was public participation in Nairobi, where he comes from. We passed also ours in Kwale County yesterday, though, and they said they wanted this amendment. Now, for somebody to come and say now he's talking for Wanjiku, and Wanjiku has up to yesterday pronounced themselves overwhelmingly that they want this amendment, I think they need to get another name for the person they are really bidding for. Certainly it's not Wanjiku. Kenyans really know what is good for them. They have passed the threshold at the county level. It's coming to the National Assembly. It is true. Whether we pass it or not, the referendum will be there. It is the same person who passed it at the grassroots, that is the county, that
Which is
will be
going back
voting
to-
in the referendum. It's
Yeah.
obvious that it's going to pass.
Okay.
So the Wanjiku is for this document, and it is really good for the country. We need to change, move forward. If there will be more changes, they will be welcome if they are good for this country. But I thank the Kenyans generally for going beyond personalities and looking at the document and pronouncing themselves on this matter.
Well, as we come to a close, ODM leader says that he is grateful that the members of the county assemblies, were able to go against the lies, misinformation, and due influence on a document whose centerpiece is ensuring prosperity, equitable sharing of resources, peace, prosperity. I mean, I have mentioned prosperity, inclusivity, stability, and all that. It is here. The document is sailing through, not necessarily at the level of the referendum that we can only wait and see. What would you say about this? How then do we get to be objective as we close?
Our reader would say, yes, I have no problem with the majority's wish because it's democracy. And I would say my opinion cannot be belittled by anybody. It is well protected by the Constitution. And those of you who will feel that the bill is good for them, nobody will say it is bad for them. And therefore, they move to choose what they will decide for. And therefore, my take is, let Kenyan take his time, cast his vote. If it's yes, you have what you have said yes for. Tomorrow, I would personally, I will not be affected because really, he has just argued very well that I'm not talking for any Wanjiku, and Wanjiku has spoken. And I can tell you, reader, can tell you whatever public perception went on was quite skewed, and money actually played cards. And I tell you, you cannot be able to buy every other Kenyan in cash. You cannot pocket them like the way you pocketed MCAs and the rest. Let me tell you, let us leave for the Kenyans to decide at the ballot. I will tell you, it's a democracy. Let those who are majority dictate their way. And those who will lose, but still will keep fighting for our rights.
There's still time to go through the document. There's still time to understand, internalize,
I wish there was
and
1
ponder
minute
these.
to ask him which right is this that
That
he
he's
thinks he
talking
will
about.
continue fighting for. Just 1 minute.
Because we are taxpayers and we are feeling
How
the
many
pain.
times have
and
we
we
raised
are,
the taxes since
and we know where we are heading to.
Okay.
Kenyans are going to be fixed.
I think-
Gentlemen, we have to close.
I think we need to go home, but I need to tell Mheshimiwa Gakuya, he's part of the reason as to why public participation does not have a law. Is he aware that BBI has actually proposed a law called Public Participation Bill that is coming to him for determination, so that now in future we can have proper public participation where the public participation rapporteur is domiciled at the Attorney General's office.
The law is there. The law came to the House, but because of hypocrisy, that law was
Will
dropped.
not sail through.
It was dropped.
Okay,
Yes,
well,
it came
this
to the
really, gentlemen, thank you so much. Honorable James Gakuya, Member of Parliament, Embakasi North, Honorable Kassim Tandaza, Member of Parliament, Matuge constituency, and lastly, Charles Munyui, governance expert. It was good having you, and we close it at that. We are getting to matters, health, food and all that, so we'll be doing some bit of cooking, but this is not, yes, nutrition is key. What it is that we started with, we say after all said and done, we have to be healthy, we have to eat well, so that at least we can also have the energy to have these kinds of debates. We are crossing over to tips.